You ever have one of those weeks where it seems things just get harder as the days go on? I've never been the kind of person who holds on to my worries. I'm a resilient person, so when I hit rough times, I get up and keep on going. But this last week I had was insane, and I wanted to share it with you all today. Now, before I start, I want to say that I'm not going to sit here and pretend this is the hardest thing anyone has ever had to go through and that I'm fishing for sympathy. It always really helps to let stuff out, and I've heard many comedians say that their routine helps them with the stuff they deal with in their life, so think of it kind of like that. When I got back from the road trip, I knew I needed to go ham on making YouTube videos. I've been wanting to get my channel set up again and running like I had before. Full disclosure, I used to make around $3,000 a month on average on YouTube, and I saved that money for a long time. What you'll notice if you look at my channel though, is right around the time where I went and lived in Vietnam, I stopped posting as much, and for about 2 years, I stopped doing YouTube the way that I used to. When I was in Vietnam, I got so depressed that I convinced myself that nobody really wanted to listen to me talk anyway. I should just quit YouTube. When I got back home, I got jobs. I worked on a weed farm for a little bit before I found a job at Best Buy, and I still made videos every now and then, but I didn't put a lot of attention into it. Eventually, a coworker of mine pulled me out of my anti-YouTube mentality, and I decided to get back into the game. The only issue was I still wasn't posting very often, and I'd changed my channel over from tech and stories to van stuff and topics that were taboo enough to alienate most of the following that I still had. So then I go on this road trip, and I didn't post while I was gone. I wanted to really absorb the trip, take it all in, but now that I'm back, I realize that getting my YouTube channel back up again is almost like starting from scratch. I'm not really keeping my head above water if I'm being honest. I haven't been making enough money to pay the bills and save some for later. Most of the time I'm taking out of savings for rent. Now I did my taxes the other day, and I was excited for this. See, I'd been jotting down write-offs for the channel for years, but this last year I had the most write-offs I ever had. The van and everything that went into it, the road trip, gas and food, all of that was business expenses. But when I took all that to my tax guy, he told me that it wasn't going to do anything for me and said that I'd be getting about $500 back this year. Now, I spent $15,000 on everything, van and road trip included, and I was banking on making that back during tax season. So this was a bit concerning to me. Later that same day, I'm still stressing about the money situation. I go to a game night with a large group of friends. We're all hanging out and getting drunk when a friend looked at me and said, "Are you still living with your mom? What do you plan on doing with your life?" This took me back a bit. I know I don't want to live in the same place for much longer, but I'm not making enough right now to do anything about it. I told him that I wanted to fix up my van and travel around for a bit. He looked at me and said, "No, you don't. Why would you want to do that?" I didn't know what to say. I looked at him and smirked and said, "Well, after that, I want to live in Vietnam." He replied, "Vietnam? Why would you want to live there? What's so good about Vietnam?" It felt like no matter what I said, he was going to judge me, and I snapped back at him and asked, "What do you want from me here?" I felt judged. I felt like nothing I could do or want was good enough. I felt like a failure for a solid couple of days after that, and I'm not mad at my friend. We were all drunk, and I don't truly know what his intention was with all that. He could have been trying to help me in the way he best knew how, but it wasn't helpful. And it made me feel like no matter what I wanted out of life was the wrong thing, when in reality the idea that you can want the wrong life is BS. What's even more unhelpful is I don't have a vehicle right now. When I got back, I sent my van to a body shop to get the front end fixed up, and they said it would take a month or so before it was done. This has isolated me to the house, and it makes me feel trapped or reliant on others, and I don't like that. The bodywork's gonna be a lot of money too, which is also stressing me out a bit. Either way, a day goes by and my cat Henry started deteriorating. He'd been getting pretty thin. He stopped eating and drinking, and we knew his time was almost up. He was only 11 years old, but he had stage 4 kidney disease, so the writing was on the wall. Either way, I was hanging out in my room trying to force myself to get some videos done when I heard a thump in the bathroom. I'd actually been on the phone at this time with my father, so I didn't know what it was and I was too busy to think about it. About 15 minutes later, I walked into the bathroom and I heard Henry cry out with this weak voice. It broke my heart. He'd fallen into the bathtub and he got his claws stuck in the curtain. This extended his arm above his head and he just hung there until someone could come in and help him. The poor cat had been so weak the past few days, and this event drained him of his energy, so he couldn't get himself out of the situation. He just had to sit there. So I picked him up and set him down on a soft pillow. Later that night, we called the emergency vet and we took him in to get him put down. I didn't want to see him suffer anymore, and I miss him greatly. Now, I don't mean to keep one-upping myself here, but the other day, my father got arrested. I know, right? Sometimes you just gotta get dumped on, but I called my dad to see what happened, and it was a bunch of BS. It was actually in the middle of this call with my father that I'd heard the thud in the bathroom, but I didn't go to check until I hung up. Now, this story from my father isn't mine to tell, so I'm not going to go into it, but long story short, he's getting evicted from his place due to what happened. I also know my father watches my videos, so I want to say this. Don't feel bad, Dad. I'm not trying to complain about you or anything. I understand the situation. It's just the timing added to this week, so I had to mention it. Now look, sometimes things get rough, and I've never been the kind of person who grabs onto my sorrow. I don't want to be sad. I don't want to get attention for sad things. I like bringing a positive vibe and optimism to every situation. But sometimes life throws you down and kicks you in the gut. And this is where I see most people laying. I don't know what it is about our culture, but we love our misery so much these days. We latch on to it, identify ourselves with it. Me, I'd rather fall down, tuck and roll, and keep on running. So with that, I wanted to share some life goals with you guys. Maybe if I put them out into the universe, some cogs can start spinning in the right direction. One thing I really want to do is get my van back and start finishing it up. I'm going to need a new bed, I want to paint her, and maybe install a high top. And there are a few moving parts that need to be optimized before my next trip. She kind of fell apart on me once or twice while I was out there. Once she's done, I want to move into the van for a little while and live around America with some friends. I have a buddy in Utah I want to go see, I've got a couple friends in Texas, Mississippi, there's someone in New England I'd really like to meet. If I can get a nice job and settle into an area and save up for the next adventure, that would be great. Then comes the traveling. Once I'm finished in America, I want to go live in the UK for a little bit. I have a buddy out there who's always wanted me to roommate with him, and I think it'd be really cool. Especially if I could get some work out there for a while too and travel around Britain. And of course, depending on what I do, all of this is subject to change. I'm just voicing everything I want, and I think it's okay to want too much. What's the saying? Shoot for the moon, because if you miss, you'll still reach the stars? Now, one big goal is either to set my YouTube channel back up or make new YouTube channels that can sustain my ambitions. I don't need much. I'm not the kind of guy who wants a mansion with a huge pool and nice cars. I couldn't give less of a crap about that if I wanted to. I want adventures. I want to see things that I've never seen before, and hopefully I can find a way to make enough money that I can achieve that. I've got plans, we just need to see if they'll work. The last goal should be pretty obvious. I want to go live in Vietnam. Honestly, if I made $700 a month, I'd easily survive. The most expensive part of living in Vietnam is the monthly apartment rent. Beyond that, I'd be paying nothing to eat and travel. And from there, I could expand out into the surrounding countries or even Europe if my budget would allow me. It sucks living in a culture that's so reliant on money to live. I get that the alternative is hunting for food every day and trying to survive, or building up a farm and maintaining a garden, but both those things would take up all of the time that I'd rather spend on novel experiences. But either way, now that this is out into the universe, maybe something awesome can come my way. I'm totally open to suggestion as well. If you guys know a way to maintain some passive income and you'd like to share your tips with me, that'd be amazing. Also, I wanted to say, I know I've talked about money a lot in this video, but I don't want it to feel like I'm asking for a handout. I have a Patreon, but I'd actually prefer if you guys don't send me money because of this video. I've always felt that if I can't make it on YouTube, I don't want my community to feel like they have to support me. I need to do what makes me happy and also generate some income, so please, if you're thinking about donating because of this video, don't do it. I'm gonna figure it out, okay? The last thing I want to say is this. Sometimes life gets really rough. You can get depressed and feel like everything is hopeless, but I feel like Jim Carrey said it best. He said, think of the word depress. When you're depressed, it's your body taking a deep rest from the character you're trying to play. What I interpret from this is you aren't being true to yourself. And when you live like that for long enough, your mind shuts down in a way to tell you that it's tired of you actively dismissing your dreams and goals. When this happens to me, I take a step back and ask myself what it is I really want. I take it as a sign that I need to start over, and in a way that's what I've been working towards since coming back from Vietnam. There's always going to be ups and downs. It's a natural flow to life, and there's a reason you have to go through it. One perspective I've always found bittersweet is you'll never go through anything you can't handle. There's a lesson in everything you endure, and if you carry that perspective, you'll be able to dredge through the rough times and thrive in the good times. I know our culture is dependent on sadness. We coddle people who complain and cry out. We highlight misery on the news. There's a lot of people out there that I meet who seemingly have a narrow subset of moods, and it's annoyed, sad, upset, and complaining about every small thing that happens. And I'm not trying to say they're weak. I just don't want to do that. Realistically, it's not practical to let anything in your life get you down so much that you stop going. It's very okay to vent. It's okay to let things out and lean on others. I mean, that's what I'm doing right now. There's a quote by Elizabeth Taylor that I really like regarding all this. It may not resonate with everyone, but I appreciate how raw and human it is. It goes like this: you just do it. You force yourself to get up. You force yourself to put one foot before the other. And god damn it, you refuse to let it get to you. You fight. You cry. You curse. Then you go about the business of living. That's how I've done it. There's no other way.